Hey everybody, welcome back to Ned Hills of Southern Indiana. We got this out. Like I promised, we're gonna bust into it. And I'll probably focus on some difficulties we catch as we arise. If I can keep track of these two in between. See how that goes. There's a lot of great videos on how to tear these down and put them back together, so I'm not gonna belabor that point. But if I run across anything unusual, we'll focus on that. Here we go. First things first, why did I take it out in the first place? First of all, we got this, you can see how serious wobble in this thing. The wheel's sitting still. This thing's got some big time play in the tilt somewhere. The key will not turn. This is completely, it's like they jammed it and it's not operating either. So I'm not sure what's going to go there. Because I can't turn the key, in order to get it to connect, when we tried to turn it over a few weeks back, I had to wiggle around on the wheel in order to get this switch to hit. So I'm not real sure at all what's going on. I have, I've got this switch coming. I've got the whole wire harness coming. I've got bearing up here, all the bearings inside, everything from Crown Automotive. And once we get all that, we'll put it back together. So let's see what kind of difficulties we run into. So one little trick I learned in the military the hard way, working on airplanes, was go ahead and exercise a little bit of overkill. These screws right here, if they're stuck in there a little bit, you're gonna run them with a regular handled screwdriver. So I just go ahead and throw the tip on a speed handle, get a little extra leverage on it. This one I've already got loose, I think. So you can push on it pretty hard. Pop that thing loose without messing it up, because we're gonna have to reuse these screws. And you don't wanna round them all off. And then you gotta drill them out or whatever else. So you pull it out of there. These are aluminum, it looks like. So especially don't want to mess those up. Anyway, use the overkill. Throw them in your Pabst Blue Ribbon box. Used to be blue boxes. We're going to transition out of that. Anyway, this going a little extra step here served me well over the years. Hurdle number one. I don't have a steering wheel puller here, but I do have a drill press, some metal, and some bolts. I had this wheel puller, but the distance between these two slots is too great, so the bolts wouldn't go down in there. So anyway, I went out, scavenged this piece off of that old Jeep bracket that I'm not going to use. Put a little nut back there. See if we can see that. The back side, held it in place, spin it down, and the wheel's coming off. So we got it loose. There we go. Popped right off, right? Good to go. Hurdle number one, check. Hurdle number two, we got to push this plate down right here so we can get this. Let me get some light in there. There's a little snap ring. Actually, I'm kind of lucked out. Little gap in the snap ring is right there toward the top. You can just barely see it. There it is. So I got to pop that ring out of the groove. In order to do that, you have to push this plate right here down, it's spring loaded from the back side, which you'll see any video online, most of them cover that. But again, I didn't have the puller, so I took this piece of wood, right, little half width furring strip piece, drilled 3 holes in it with the bits here. This is the nut right off of the steering wheel. I took these, oh, where'd it go? Then I took one of these, which is for furniture. They use them in making wood furniture. Put that on the back there. See that? Or you could just use a regular nut, I suppose. It would sink into the wood a little bit, grab on there. And then a bolt or screw, whatever you have. These are, again, furniture stuff. Another guy gave me one time. I've used several of these for different things over the years. Anyway, then took the old Allen wrench, screwed it down, spring loaded it down, and now I'm gonna pop that ring out of there. So why go through all the trouble? I guess the reason I'm going through all the trouble is I could buy the puller set for 40 bucks, cheap one from Harbor Freight. Or I could run in town and borrow one from the parts store, but I just happen to have time tonight to work on this thing. Closest parts store is 20-25 minutes away till I run in there, grab the stuff, come back. Talking over an hour. And I threw this little contraption and this little puller that I showed you earlier together in probably 30 minutes. You know, having that drill press there makes that all a lot easier. And I get to keep working on it tonight. So, you know, sometimes you just make do. How to get that little snap ring out of there. One screwdriver wasn't doing it. I couldn't quite get it to pull out of there. So I have this little cheap screwdriver. I don't remember what I was doing, but I heated up the end and you can kind of see a little bend to it there. So what I was able to do is go up underneath the side of this ring and kind of pull it up. And while I had that going on there with this screwdriver, I took another screwdriver and went down toward the edge right here and basically took the other screwdriver and popped it out, and then, you know, just took both screwdrivers and kind of worked around the whole edge all the way around. So now I should be able to slide that right off of there. So I'm thinking we're gonna see exactly what's moving around in there. Hopefully it's just bearings, the same bearings I have on order. But we'll get this cool little 10-minute contraption off of here and see what awaits behind. All right, so we got a few more things out. This thing's all corroded up. I'm not even sure if I bought a new one of these or not. We're gonna have to check that out when stuff comes in. This is looking quite worn around here. I'm pretty sure I got this part. But it's got a groove worn in it here. So it looks like, no, I think that's supposed to be there. But I'm pretty sure I got that. This is cracked here where the turn signal handle comes across there. And this thing's just really brittle. Feels like it could just break. I don't mess with it too much. But pretty gummed up here. Switches and everything. This is crunchy. Looks like it's supposed to be able to move in and out freely, but it doesn't. I didn't see anything wrong with the wires, really. There is some flat spots on them. Way down inside there. Doesn't show real good on the video, but there are some flat spots in there where the wire was kind of crunched, but everything else looked pretty good. This, check these bearings. They look right inside there. They're way bad. Moving up and down. You can see the gap opening and closing there on the corner there. So I got those bearings coming. They're completely popping out of their race right there. So, and this thing is not spinning freely at all. So, but we'll keep digging. Show you guys what I find as we go. Different places to check out on your own. All right, so I was messing around with this a little bit more. I got these 3 screws out. One here, one up here, one up here. While I was doing that, you can see how much the shaft is moving. I'm gonna guess that these pieces here that were part of that bearing are not supposed to just like fall out of there. Probably all supposed to be one part of the unit for that bearing, but you can see how dried out and messed up it is. So I'm not being able to slide this off of here, and it's starting to get dark out. So I'm gonna have to hold up here a little bit, probably go in a little bit and pick this up later. Again, I'm just showing you guys the tough spots that I hit on mine to share that. I'm gonna go enjoy the Pabst Blue Ribbon over there. We'll probably come back next chance we get a few days to continue on with this. Peace out. All right, we're back at it again out here. I gotta show you guys something the other night. This old stop sign here was actually up underneath here as some sort of a splash or mud gourd. Basically went all the way from this back to the oil pan. Repurposed stop sign. Here's the carburetor. Pulled it out of that gas soak that I had it in, and everything's working way better, way freer than it was. I just soaked it up and sprayed it down with a little bit of lubricating oil, one of my favorites. Got that going again. But the reason we're really back out here is to continue work on that steering column. So let's go take a look at that. So this thing's got 2 pins on each side. One here, make sure you can see that. Yep, one here and one on the other side here. The other videos showed either a puller or another guy just ran a screw in there and tapped it out. The pliers and a hammer. I found this screw in the box. Stuff that I had. Take my handy dandy steering wheel puller mechanism here. Claw hammer. This is how I got the other side out. Right up against the side of it. Give it a tug. It's coming. There we go. Get my screw off of there. That's what it looks like. All right, I got my shop buddy out here. Say hi, Buck. Buck's sleeping, I think. You awake? There he is. Say hey. All right, anyway, got the going on this, and you can see a bracket up in here that's broken. So I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do there. Probably from this lever. Messing around in there, I don't know. Or just yanking around on it too much. You can also see these screws, all 4 of these screws that they always talk about, super loose. So I'm sure that wasn't helping anything. But the biggest hang up we have right now is this bearing doesn't want to come off the end of this rusty old shaft. So I'm going to soak it down with some PB Blaster, take this puller off of here, and we'll come back after it a couple days. I'm back out here. It's been probably a week since I started disassembling this thing. Kind of got stuck on this bearing. You can see a line right there where it started to move, but then it just kind of like locked up on me. I don't know if I got it pulled kind of crooked because of all the corrosion on there where it's not wanting to pull off straight, or if it's just got a bunch of junk caught up in there or what. I'm concerned about this spline area here. If it comes off crooked or got some junk in there dragging across, it's gonna, you know, chew up those splines. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna get out the old Dremel tool and just gonna cut a line across here and get this thinned out right before it goes all the way through so I don't damage the shaft, weaken it up, get a weak point in it, and hopefully I can pull that off of there. So I'm gonna go do all that, and then I'll show you guys what the result is. And hopefully we can get this thing finally torn apart today. Okay, we're back. That didn't actually take very long. Took the old Dremel here, cutting wheel on it, and I first cut off this outer housing. See where it's a little stretched apart. Took the screwdriver, it's right in the end there, laid it over on there, spread it apart, and then worked it off of the outside of this. And here's the cool part. I'm guessing there's supposed to be bearings in this race right here that also ride in this race on here. And not a single one fell out. So I tell you, it was high time for a new bearing down here. Now I did, I saw a little shiny on there, but just barely enough to catch a fingernail on. I don't think that's, this is not a high-speed shaft or anything, so I ain't worried about that. Pull this shelf out, this shaft rather, out of here. Come right on out now. I'm hoping you see a little flex there. Supposed to, I'll have to work on that. Make sure we get that cleaned up. I'll take this whole shaft here, take a wire brush to it, clean it up, probably spray some paint on it, and we'll get this end down here all cleaned up too before we put it back together. All right, so next step is I'm gonna pull this stuff apart here. I'll get all these parts pulled out of here, and if there's any difficulties along the way or whatever, I'll show you what those might be. Other than that, I really want to get a close look at how messed up that housing is. If we can use it still, or if I need to go on a parts hunt. More to follow. Well, heck. I've got a few things going on here. First of all, this thing is just falling apart. Several cracks and breaks in it. I think I can get a new one of those easy enough. This was laying in there all loose and everything, but it doesn't appear to be broken or worn to the extent that I can't use it, although I don't know that 100% like this. It's supposed to be at an angle like that or straight. Gonna have to watch some videos on, I bet that's supposed to be straight, because I think it goes into a slot inside here, and it's not doing that. So, not sure there. I'll be able to straighten that. Here's where it gets fun. This is that broken part that we were looking at. Not sure if it goes even further over here, but regardless, I don't have a way to weld that here. I did find one online for, I think, $75, but probably $50 shipping and handling or something crazy. You know how that goes. So I'll have to look into that, figure that part out. And then this little piece was floating around in here, in this groove back here. And I was trying to figure out where that went. And I think I figured it out. Do a little puzzle work here. It would appear as though, especially when you look over here, so we can get it to, there it goes. It would appear as though that's supposed to go on here. And they must have gone in with a screwdriver or something, because these edges are flattened off and mashed over sideways. Here and here, like something was pried on there. But it does look like this was broken out of there somehow. You see this area here too, it looks like where it mates up. Now I can weld that on there, but I don't know about this little gap right there, what's going on in there. It looks kind of odd how this part goes down. And then this part's kind of rounded. And there's a weird gap there. Maybe something goes in there that I wasn't paying attention to, because this wasn't here when I took it apart, so I don't know. And then this part here is cracked. You can see a crack right there. And this is tweaked up quite a bit. So let's see if I can do this one-handed here without dropping this. My best guesstimate is that this, how'd that go? Okay, like this. Goes in there like that. This part's broke out. Probably they pried that somehow. And this, you can see that big old gap over there between these. You have to figure that out. Push it down, get it re-welded. All right, I can weld that easy enough, but then I've got to grind it off, make sure it's smooth. So I don't know what goes up against here on the inside, and then that black shroud fits over the outside. And, you know, searching out the piece parts. The unfortunate part of it is I was hoping, which you should never do when you're working on old stuff like this. I was hoping this was going to go a lot easier than that. I found this, but I had gone ahead and bought all the parts I needed to rebuild this. I got all the bearings and everything needed to put it back together. I was going to hopefully clean things up and have this thing going back together here shortly. But no such luck. So, guess I'll get on the internet. Try to figure out what it's going to cost me to buy this, what's it going to cost to buy this, and before I do that, I'll go ahead and try to repair this tube and see if I can get this plate to be able to grab onto something. Because if I can't get that to work successfully, this whole thing won't go together at all. So it'd be a moot point. And if these parts are going to cost, you know, too much more, plus the 200 and something I've got in that box over there, it may be just as well to find another steering column. I know this is a Saginaw steering column, so it's very common on the GMs There's a lot of steering columns that'll fit into the Jeep. If I could find another rebuilt or something, but I really didn't want to spend that much money on it. I guess I could go get a YJ steering column, and the only issue that I'm seeing there is this rod right here with the splines on it. You would swap it out with the YJ rod that has what they call the double D on the end instead of the splines. That's the way I'm understanding it from what I've read. I don't know if I've got that exactly right. If anybody out there knows anything about that or knows of a website or something that's got all that on there, that would be super helpful. Drop it down in the comments. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this video for now and kind of leave it as a, a cliffhanger. And we'll just see what happens. Dang it.